The first thing you notice is the silence. It's a thick, unnatural quiet that presses in on you. You're awake, lying on a straw minus stuffed mattress that has conformed to the shape of your body over many months. The air in your small room is cool and carries the familiar, earthy smell of damp plaster and the faint, lingering scent of yesterday's bread. But the silence, that is new. Usually, a Roman morning assaults the ears, even before the sun has fully crested the nearby hills. The city groans itself awake, the rumble of iron Midas-rimmed wagon wheels on stone, forbidden during the day to ease traffic, would be making its last frantic journeys. The calls of street vendors setting up their stalls, the distant braying of a donkey, the shouting of neighbors from across the courtyard of your apartment block. The insula. This is the normal symphony of your life. It's the sound of a million people crammed together, all trying to get a head start on the day. But not this morning. You lie perfectly still, listening. Your eyes are closed, but your ears are straining, trying to catch a familiar thread of noise. Nothing. It's as if a thick blanket of snow has fallen on the entire city, muffling it into submission. A deeply unsettling thought. Considering it's the middle of a sweltering summer, a knot of cold dread begins to form in your stomach. You try to reason with it. Perhaps you've just woken up unusually early. Perhaps it's a holy day you've forgotten. One of the many dozens that litter the Roman calendar, where work is suspended and a strange quiet descends. But this feels different. This doesn't feel like a holy quiet. It feels like a holding of breath. Slowly, you open your eyes. The room is dim, lit only by a sliver of grey light forcing its way through the crack in the wooden shutters of your small, high window. You see the familiar shapes. The simple clay jug of water on a 3-legged stool, the wooden chest holding your few possessions, the rough texture of the wall beside your bed. Everything is normal. Everything is in its place. So why does it all feel so deeply, terribly wrong? You sit up. The scratchy wool blanket, a comfort on most nights, feels abrasive and heavy. You swing your legs over the side of the bed, your bare feet meeting the cold, uneven stone of the floor. You shiver, though the air isn't that cold. It's a shiver that comes from somewhere deeper. A thought drifts into your mind, a piece of old, ingrained Roman superstition. You think of the Pax Derum, the fragile peace between the gods and the city of Rome. It's a delicate contract, maintained by correct ritual, proper sacrifice, and the moral conduct of its citizens. But if one person commits a crime heinous enough, an act so unnatural it offends the very foundations of order, that peace can be broken. The gods turn their faces away, and the entire community becomes polluted, stained by the act. You try to push the thought away. It's just morning. You're just tired. Maybe you had too much of that cheap, watered Midas-down wine last night. But the dread persists. A cold passenger inside you. This is the great, unspoken fear of living in such a crowded, pious city. The idea that the actions of a single, unseen person could bring divine wrath down upon everyone. Historians to this day still debate the true extent to which the average Roman felt this daily spiritual pressure. Was it a constant, no-level anxiety, or just something the priests and politicians worried about? For you, in this moment, it feels terrifyingly real. It feels like the city itself knows something has happened, something has broken the world. And then you hear it. A sound. It's not the rumble of a cart or the call of a vendor. It's the soft, rhythmic scrape of leather sandals on stone, coming down the narrow alleyway outside your building. Scrape, scrape, scrape. The sound is measured, unhurried. It's not the sound of someone going to work. It's the sound of someone coming to a destination. The footsteps stop, directly outside your door. The silence that follows is heavier, more profound than anything that came before it. You hold your breath, your heart suddenly hammering against your ribs, a frantic drum in the dead quiet of your room. You are no longer wondering what is wrong with the world. You are beginning to understand that something is wrong with you. There is no warning. No polite hello or open up shouted from the other side. There is only a single, solid thump. It's not the sound of a fist. It's the dull, heavy impact of something solid and official against your cheek. Wooden door. The sound doesn't just knock on the wood. It seems to pass right through it, through the stone walls, and into the very marrow of your bones. You flinch, pulling back from the door as if it has become red hot. Your mind, which a moment ago was a fog of dread, is now frantically, uselessly trying to work. Who is it? The landlord, angry about the rent. Unlikely. He would be screaming, not knocking with such finality. A neighbor with a complaint. No, they would be banging with their fists, their voice a shrill accompaniment. This is different. This is methodical. Another thump comes, identical to the first. It echoes in the small room, a sound so definitive it seems to absorb all other potential noises. The silence that follows is once again absolute, as if the entire city is still holding its breath, waiting for you. You realize you are still in your sleeping tunic, a simple, knee-length garment of undyed wool. You look down at your bare feet on the cold floor. There's a sudden, absurd urge to get dressed, to put on your sandals, to face whatever is coming as a proper, respectable citizen. It's a fleeting, foolish impulse. You are rooted to the spot, a statue carved from fear. You know, with a certainty that bypasses all logic, who is on the other side of that door. These aren't the boisterous, armored legionaries you see marching in triumphal parades. They aren't the swaggering Praetorian Guard who protect the Emperor. These are the Vigiles Urbani, the City Watch, part fire brigade, part police force. They are the men who patrol the dark, labyrinthine streets of Rome at night, dealing with everything from runaway slaves to rowdy taverns. They are a common sight, but not like this, not at a person's door in the dead quiet of dawn. Slowly, as if in a trance, you take a step towards the door, then another. Your hand raises, trembling slightly, and hovers over the simple iron latch. Do you open it? What if you just don't? What if you stay here, in your small, safe room, and pretend you're not home? The thought is childish and you dismiss it immediately. They know you are here. The entire world seems to know you are here. With a final, resigned breath, you lift the latch. The door swings inward with a low groan. The grey morning light floods into your small room, making you squint. Standing in the doorway are two men. They are not what you expected. There is no shining armor, no plumed helmets. They are dressed in simple, dark tunics and heavy leather sandals. Their faces are impassive, etched with the weary professionalism of men who have seen everything the Roman knight has to offer. They look like dockworkers or blacksmiths, solid and unremarkable, except for the short, leaf-bladed swords, the gladius hanging at their hips, and the wooden staves they hold in their hands. They don't speak. The one on the left, a man with a scarred cheek and tired eyes, simply looks at you. It's not a look of anger, or pity, or even curiosity. It is a look of pure, uncomplicated procedure. You are a task to be completed, a box to be checked on a list. His eyes flit past you, scanning the meager contents of your room in a single, practiced glance. He seems to confirm that you are who they are looking for, that this is the correct place. The other man, younger and with a nervous energy HES trying to suppress, looks down at a small wooden tablet HES holding. He squints at the wax surface, then looks back up at you. Gaius Vers Moiner, he asks, his voice flat. He mispronounces your middle name slightly. You nod, you try to speak, to say yes. That is me, but your throat is dry. All you can manage is a small, jerky movement of your head. It feels like a confession. The man with the scarred cheek takes a single step forward, across your threshold. He has now entered your home, your space, and with that single step, it is no longer yours. It is a place of official business. He doesn't look at you. Instead, his eyes are fixed on a point on the wall just over your shoulder. "You will come with us," he says. It is not a request. It is a statement of fact, as inevitable as the rising of the sun. There is no room for argument, no space for questions. Questions like, "Why?" or "What have I done?" seem ridiculous in the face of such calm, unshakable authority. Those questions belong to a world that ended the moment the knocking began. You are in a new world now, and it has different rules. A strange, trivial detail catches your eye. Historians often wonder about the daily equipment of the vigiles. Was it standardized? Did they have uniforms? The answer, you see now, is a disappointing sort of. These men are wearing vaguely similar colors, but their belts are different. Their sandals are of different makes. One man's tunic is more frayed than the others. They are less like a police force and more like a very serious club that has a loosely enforced dress code. It's a ridiculous thing to notice, a piece of useless trivia your brain has offered up to distract you from the cold terror that is now flooding your entire body. The younger guard gestures with his head towards the alleyway. "Now," he adds, his voice a little sharper this time. You look down at your bare feet again. The cold stone seems to leach the warmth from your body. You look at your simple sleeping tunic. There is a small tear near the hem. You've been meaning to fix it. Without a word, you turn and take a single step out of your home, into the grey morning and the new, terrible reality that awaits you. The door is left swinging open behind you. You don't look back. You step out from the familiar darkness of your building into the narrow canyon of the alley. The light is still a soft, pre-dawn grey, but after the gloom of your room, it feels sharp and accusing. The air is cool and smells of refuse and damp stone. Your bare feet protest against the grimy, uneven cobblestones. A piece of broken pottery jabs at your heel, and you wince, shuffling your weight. It's a small, immediate pain that does little to distract from the larger, formless dread. The two guards flank you, one in front, one behind. They don't touch you. They don't need to. Their presence is a cage more effective than any iron chains. The one in front sets a slow, deliberate pace, and you fall into step behind him, your bare feet making soft, slapping sounds on the stone. The guard behind you is a silent, heavy presence. You can feel his gaze on your back. As you emerge from the alley onto a slightly wider street, the silence begins to break. You start to see signs of life, but it's not the usual morning bustle. A woman peers out from a high window, her face a pale oval in the shadows. She sees you, flanked by the guards, and her eyes widen. She doesn't gasp or shout. She just pulls her head back inside, and you see the wooden shutter close with a quiet click. Pay Bater, his arms white with flour, stands frozen in the doorway of his shop, a tray of unbaked loaves in his hands. He stares at you, his mouth slightly agape, before he too seems to think better of it and retreats into the darkness of his bakery. They are not looking at you with pity. They are not looking at you with scorn. They are looking at you with a kind of primal fear. It's the fear of contamination, as if you're bad luck. Your crime, whatever it is, might be airborne, as if by witnessing your slow, sad procession, they might catch it. You are no longer their neighbor. You are an omen, a walking symbol of divine displeasure. This public walk is a crucial, if unofficial, part of the process. Historians debate whether this was a calculated act of public shaming or simply the most practical way to get a prisoner from point A to point B in a city without police cars. But standing here, in your thin tunic, barefoot and exposed, you feel the weight of every silent stare. It's a performance, and you are the unwilling star. The guard in front makes a sharp turn, and you find yourselves on one of Rome's main thoroughfares. And here, the city is awake. The noise hits you like a physical blow. The clatter of carts that have found a reason to be out. The shouting of merchants. The lowing of an ox being led to slaughter somewhere nearby. The smells are overwhelming. Cheap wine, frying sausages, unwashed bodies, incense from a small street minus Gawler shrine, the foul stench of the open sewer running down the center of the street. But your procession cuts through the chaos like a knife. The noise of the street doesn't stop, but it changes. It parts around you. The river of people flowing down the street splits, creating a small, moving bubble of silence with you at its center. People press themselves against the walls of the buildings to let you pass. They avert their eyes, suddenly finding a loose sandal strap fascinating, or staring intently at a cheap terracotta pot in a shop window. They don't want to see you, but they are intensely aware of you. You feel 1,000 eyes on you, even when they're trying not to look. You are more exposed, more naked, than if you were stripped bare in the middle of the forum. You try to shrink into yourself, to make yourself smaller. You hunch your shoulders and stare at the filthy cobblestones moving beneath your feet. You see broken bits of straw, a crushed olive pit, a smear of something unit unfightable. You focus on these tiny details, a desperate attempt to build a world that is only a few inches wide, a world that doesn't contain the silent judgment of an entire city. A child, no older than 5, points at you. "Dunno. Why is that man sad?" he asks in a loud, clear voice that cuts through the muted hustle. His mother quickly shushes him, pulling him close and covering his eyes with her hand as she hurries away. It's a strange and oddly specific detail that the records of these events rarely capture: the profound indifference of the city. Rome is a beast concerned with its own survival. Your personal tragedy is, at best, a momentary distraction, a brief piece of street theater. This is a cold comfort. They don't care enough to hate you, but they also don't care enough to help you. You risk a quick glance up and see the face of the guard in front of you. He is staring straight ahead, his expression bored, as if HES merely delivering a package. This is his job. HES probably thinking about his lunch, or the blister forming on his heel. The sheer, maddening banality of it all is a quiet sort of torture in itself. You continue your walk, a ghost moving through a city that has already decided you are no longer a part of it. Each step is a small act of surrender. You are not being dragged in chains. You are not being prodded with spears. You are simply walking. And in that simple act of compliance, you are participating in your own undoing. The sun is higher now, casting sharp shadows on the stone. It's beginning to get warm, and you have the sickening feeling that your journey, your first public appearance, has only just begun. The walk feels like it lasts for an eternity. A journey through 100 different smells and 1,000 averted glances. Eventually, the chaotic, narrow streets of the residential quarters give way to something more monumental. The buildings grow larger, grander, their facades decorated with stone carvings and peeling paint. You recognize this place. You are approaching the edge of the Roman Forum, the heart of the city, the center of law, commerce, and religion. The guard in front of you leads you not into the main, sprawling square of the Forum itself, but towards a large, imposing building on its periphery, a basilica. You've walked past it a dozen times. It's not a church. Not in the way that word would be understood centuries later. In your time, a basilica is a public building, a sort of indoor piazza. It's a place where merchants strike deals, lawyers argue cases, and officials hold court. It is a grand, echoing hall, filled with the hum of business and administration. The guards guide you through a side entrance, away from the main throng. The air inside is cooler, but thick and stuffy. The sheer scale of the space is meant to impress, to make the individual feel small and insignificant. Lofty columns march down the length of the hall, holding up a high, timbered roof that is lost in the shadows far above. The noise of the city is replaced by a different kind of sound. The low murmur of conversations, the shuffle of papers, the scrape of sandals on the polished marble floor. They led you to a small, cordoned minus area at one end of the hall. A few wooden benches are arranged before a raised platform. A dais. On the dais sits a heavy wooden chair. And in that chair sits a man. He is not an emperor. He is not even a high-ranking senator. He is a city magistrate, a praetor urbanus, a man whose job it is to oversee the legal machinery of Rome. He looks bored, tired, and slightly annoyed, as if your case is an inconvenient interruption to his day. He's dressed in a toga with a thin purple stripe, the sign of his office. H.E.S. listening to an aide who is whispering in his ear, and he nods slowly, his eyes half-closed. You are made to stand before the platform. The two guards take up positions behind you, their staves held at their sides. There is no jury of your peers. There is no passionate defense attorney pleading your case. There are no witnesses being called to testify for or against you. You realize, with a sinking heart, that all of that has already happened. The investigation, the testimony, the decision, it was all done without you. This is not a trial. This is a sentencing. The magistrate finally dismisses his aide with a flick of his wrist and turns his bleary eyes upon you. He picks up a scroll from a small table beside him and unrolls it, with a soft crackle of papers. He holds it at a distance, squinting to read the text written in neat, black ink. In the matter of the accused, he begins, his voice a droning monotone that echoes slightly in the vast space. Charged with the crime of parricide. Parricide. The word hangs in the air. The ultimate crime. It doesn't just mean killing one's father, though that is its most common meaning. Its legal definition is broader, more terrible. It is the murder of any close relative, a mother, a grandparent, a sibling. It's a crime considered so profoundly unnatural, so offensive to the gods and to the very concept of piety as the sacred duty to one's family, state, and deities that it requires a unique and terrible response. You look at the magistrate. Does he believe you did it? Does he care? His face is a mask of bureaucratic indifference. He could be reading a shipping manifest for all the emotion he shows. He continues to read from the scroll, a string of legal phrases and formal accusations that wash over you without meaning. Your mind is snagged on that one word, parricide. You see a flash of a memory, a heated argument, a slammed door, but the specifics are hazy, dreamlike, as if they happened to someone else. Was it you? The certainty of the state says it was. The calm, procedural nature of this moment insists upon it. The magistrate looks up from his scroll, his gaze passing over you as if you are a piece of furniture. He speaks to one of the guards, not to you. The verdict stands. The punishment is prescribed. And that's it. There's no dramatic bang of a gavel, no pronouncement of guilty. The whole affair is handled with a chilling lack of ceremony. It's a logistical confirmation, not a moment of high drama. This, right here, is a point of contention for scholars. Some depictions of Roman law in movies and books show fiery trials and dramatic speeches. The reality, for many, was likely much closer to this. A dry, administrative process where your fate is sealed not with a shout, but with a tired sigh and the rustle of a scroll. The magistrate rolls the papers back up and hands it to his aide. He is already looking past you, signaling for the next case to be brought forward. Your part in the grand machinery of Roman justice is over. You are no longer a case to be heard. You are a sentence to be carried out. A strange, cold fact pops into your head. The word parricide itself, its origins are murky. Some ancient sources claim it comes from pay to father and CIE dear to kill, but others have a stranger, more debated theory. They argue it might come from par equal and CEE dear, meaning the killing of an equal, a fellow citizen, which was later narrowed to just family. Yet another, even more bizarre theory suggests it relates to parent, a parent, but also two serpents, a snake, a hint, perhaps, of the ancient, venomous nature of the crime and its punishment. Historians still argue about it in footnotes of dusty books. It's a fascinating linguistic puzzle that is of absolutely no comfort to you right now. The guard behind you places a heavy hand on your shoulder. It's the first time they have physically touched you. The touch is not violent, but it is firm and unyielding. It steers you away from the days. Your brief, underwhelming audience with power now concluded. The verdict was never in doubt. The punishment, you realize, is all that is left. You are not led back out the way you came. Instead, the guards guide you through a doorway behind the magistrate's dais. Into a darker, more private part of the basilica, you find yourself in a small, enclosed courtyard, open to the sky but walled in on all four sides. The sun is high and out, and the light that falls into this space is direct and harsh. In the center of the courtyard, 3 men are waiting. They are not guards. They are dressed in simple loincloths, their bodies muscular and slick with sweat. They are the officials' assistants, the low-level functionaries who do the grim, physical work of the state. One of them is holding a bundle of rods. They are not the ordinary birch rods of a standard flogging. These are different. They are dyed a deep, visceral red. They look like bloody sinews, like exposed bundles of muscle. This is the first formal, ritualistic step of your punishment, and it is steeped in symbolism. This is the verbi ratio, the ceremonial scourging. The guards remove their hands from you and step back. Their duty momentarily passes to these other men. One of the men in the loincloth approaches you. He doesn't speak. He simply grabs the collar of your sleeping tunic and drips it downwards. The rough wool tears with a sound like a dry cough, exposing your back to the warm air. The sudden exposure makes you feel vulnerable, pathetic. You are pushed forward, towards a short stone column in the center of the courtyard. You are forced to bend over it, your hands pulled in front of you and tied together with a length of rough rope. The stone is cool against your stomach and chest. You are now bent in a position of complete submission, your back arched and presented to the men. You squeeze your eyes shut, bracing for the first blow. You can hear the men murmuring behind you, the soft swish of the red rods as one of them tests their weight. Why red? The question flickers in your mind. Is it to mimic the blood they are about to draw? Is it a color associated with Mars, the god of war, a way of declaring a kind of war on your crime? Or is it, as some scholars would later speculate, tied to more ancient, forgotten rituals of purification and sacrifice, where the color red symbolized both life and death? The true meaning is lost to time, debated in circles you will never be a part of. All you know is that they are red, and they offer you. You hear the whistle of the air before you feel the impact. The first blow lands high on your shoulders. It is not a sharp, stinging pain like a whip. It is a deep, shuddering thud that seems to resonate through your entire skeleton. It's the pain of a heavy bruise, a trauma that goes deeper than the skin. You grunt, your teeth clench, your face pressed against the stone. Another blow lands, this time lower, across your ribs. You gasp, the air forced from your lungs. The pain is not just on the surface. It feels like your very bones are being rattled, like your organs are being bruised. This isn't just about inflicting pain. It's a systematic, ritualized breaking down of your body, mirroring the way your crime has broken the social order. They are methodical. The blows fall in a steady rhythm, not with anger or passion, but with a detached, workmanlike efficiency. Left shoulder, right shoulder, middle back, lower back. It's a pattern. This is a procedure, not a beating. A strange, trivial fact comes to mind. Under Roman law, the number of lashes was often unspecified. It wasn't 40 lashes save one or some other legally defined limit. The severity was often left to the discretion of the magistrate or the men carrying out the punishment. It was meant to be severe, to be a visible and painful spectacle, but its primary purpose was not to kill you. That was reserved for later. This was just the prelude, the ceremonial unminus making. With each blow, your connection to the world of the living feels a little more tenuous. The pain becomes a red haze, a roaring in your ears that drowns out the sounds of the courtyard. You are no longer Gaius Vers Minor, a citizen with a name and a history. You are becoming something else. A vessel for punishment. An object being acted upon. You taste salt and copper in your mouth. You've bitten your lip. You can feel warm rivulets of blood trickling down your back, sticking to the wool of your torn tunic. The red of the rods and the red of your own blood are beginning to merge. The symbolism is becoming reality. Just as you feel you might lose consciousness, that the world might dissolve into a sea of pain, it stops. The rhythm is broken. The whistling in the air ceases. There is only the sound of your own ragged breathing and the thumping of your heart. The men in loincloth desks step back. Their work is done. You remain draped over the stone column, trembling. Your back a landscape of deep, throbbing agony. One of the original guards steps forward. He carries a small clay jug and pours cool water over your back. The shock of the cold on your bruised and broken skin is a new kind of pain, sharp and electric, but it also brings a strange clarity. It washes away some of the blood, and for a moment, you feel a flicker of something like gratitude. It's a pointless, absurd feeling. Then, the same guard unties your hands. He pulls you upright. You are unsteady on your feet, your legs weak and trembling. The world sways for a moment, the edges of your vision going dark. The guard holds your arm, steadying you. He does it with the same impersonal efficiency as everything else. You are a package, and it is his job to ensure the package remains intact for the next stage of its journey. The scourging is over, but as you stand there, swaying, your back a symphony of fire, you know this was just the opening act. Your body is a universe of pain, but the procedure must continue. There is a schedule to keep. The guards support you by the arms, half minus walking, half minus dragging you towards another corner of the sun minus drenched courtyard. An old man is waiting there, sitting on a low stool. He is not a guard or an official. He looks like a simple craftsman, with calloused hands and a deeply wrinkled face. Beside him on the ground is an object you've never seen before. It's a pair of shoes, or a rough approximation of shoes. They are carved from solid blocks of wood, thick and heavy. They are not shaped to the contours of a human foot. They are clumsy, blocky, and utterly alien. These are the Cullei, the cursed wooden shoes. One of the guards pushes you down onto the dusty ground. Your knees buckle, and you land with a jarring thud. The old man, without a word, grabs one of your bare, grimy feet. His touch is surprisingly gentle, the professional touch of a man who has done this exact task hundreds of times. He lifts your foot and forces it into one of the wooden blocks. It's a terrible fit. The wood is rough against your skin, and the cavity is too wide in some places and too narrow in others. It's like putting your foot into a hollowed minus-out piece of firewood. The old man then takes a leather thong and begins to bind the clog to your foot, lashing it tightly around your ankle. The leather digs into your skin, but the discomfort is nothing compared to the throbbing agony of your back. He repeats the process with your other foot. Now, you are shot, but you do not feel protected. You feel hobbled, encumbered. The guards pull you to your feet again. You try to stand, but the wooden shoes are a disaster. They are incredibly heavy, and their flat, solid bottoms give you no sense of the ground beneath you. Every small pebble and eminence in the stone is a threat, threatening to twist your ankle. You are forced to adopt a clumsy, shuffling gait. Your feet clomping loudly and unnaturally on the ground. Clomp, clomp, clomp. The sound is ridiculous. It's the sound of a puppet, not a man. And that, you realize, is the point. This isn't about footwear. This is another layer of the ritual, another step in the process of stripping away your humanity. Your normal leather sandals, your Cullei connected you to the world. They were flexible, worn minus in, a part of you. They allowed you to walk the streets of your city as a citizen. These wooden blocks do the opposite. They disconnect you. They make you a clumsy, awkward creature, a parody of a walking man. This specific detail of the punishment is one that perplexes historians. Why wooden shoes? There are several theories, each more unsettling than the last. One idea is that wood, being an insulator, was meant to sever your connection to the earth, to Mother Terra. Your crime was so unnatural that you were no longer worthy of touching the sacred ground of Rome directly. You had to be insulated from it, cut off like a diseased limb. Another, more practical theory suggests it was simply to prevent you from escaping. It's hard to run when you have small logs tied to your feet, but even this seems too simple. The punishment for parricidium is so steeped in ancient, religious symbolism that every element feels deliberate, weighted with meaning. And then there's a stranger, more obscure interpretation. Some ancient commentators suggested the wooden shoes were meant to mimic the footwear of actors on a tragic stage, who wore elevated shoes called cothernai. By forcing you into these clumsy clogs, the state was casting you in a play. You are the tragic figure, the villain, and your final moments are a piece of public theatre for the moral instruction of the populace. You are no longer real. You are a character in a grim performance. You take a tentative, shuffling step. CLOMP. Then another. CLOMP. The guards watch you, their faces impassive. They are waiting for you to get the hang of it, to be able to move again under your own power. However awkwardly, the pain in your back is a constant, fiery rule. But now there is this new, frustrating challenge. The simple act of walking, something you have done without thought your entire life, has become a difficult, conscious effort. You feel a profound sense of humiliation that is somehow deeper than the physical pain. The scourging was agony, but it was a primal, almost noble agony. This is just degrading. It's making you a fool. They clown with a bleeding back. You look down at the absurd blocks on your feet. They are made of a cheap, pale wood, possibly pine. There are splinters sticking out in places. Who makes these? Is there a specific workshop in Rome, a cursed wooden shoe carpenter, who gets a steady stream of orders from the city magistrates? Do they take pride in their work? It's a bizarre, horrifying thought, the mundane bureaucracy of evil. The guard in charge seems satisfied that you can move. He gestures with his head, and the slow, shuffling procession begins again. They lead you out of the small, private courtyard and back into another part of the basilica. Each step is a new lesson in clumsiness and pain. The heavy CLOMP. CLOMP. CLOMP of your wooden shoes echoes on the marble floor. A loud, unnatural rhythm announcing your passage. You are no longer just a prisoner. You are now a spectacle of sound as well as sight. The CLOMPing of your wooden shoes becomes the new rhythm of your existence. You are led through a series of dim corridors and echoing halls, away from the administrative heart of the basilica and towards a darker, quieter section of the complex. The air grows cooler, damper. The smell of mildew and stagnant water hangs heavy. You are being taken down, deep into the substructures of the building. Finally, you arrive in a small, windowless room. The only light comes from a single, sputtering torch held by one of the guards, which casts long, dancing shadows on the stone walls. In the center of the room, another functionary is waiting. Here's a lean, weary man with a drooping mustache and an air of detached importance. On a stone bench next to him rests another object of your ritual. It is a hood, but it is not a simple cloth bag. It is made of skin, dark, coarse, and matted with fur. The smell that comes from it is overpowering, a musky, animal scent of predator and damp earth. You recognize it immediately. It is the skin of a wolf. The guard holding your arm gives you a slight push forward. The man with the mustache picks up the wolf-skin hood. It is crudely made. A sack-like object with the rough shape of a head and shoulders, stitched together with thick gut. It is a horrifying, primitive thing. You recoil instinctively. To be blinded is a primal fear. To be plunged into a world of darkness and uncertainty. But this is worse than a simple blindfold. This is a transformation. The man steps in front of you. He holds the hood open with both hands. The inside is dark and rank. He hesitates for a moment, looking at you. His eyes, for the first time, show a flicker of something other than professional boredom. It might be pity. It might be disgust. It's hard to tell in the flickering torchlight. "This is the law," he mutters, his voice raspy. It's the first time anyone has offered even a sliver of explanation. However hollow. It's less an apology and more a way of absolving himself of responsibility. He is just a cog in the machine. Then, before you can protest or struggle, he thrusts the hood over your head. The world vanishes. You are plunged into a suffocating, foul-smelling darkness. The wolf's skin is heavy, pressing down on your head and shoulders. The rough fur scratches against your cheeks and forehead. The air inside is hot and instantly stale, thick with the stench of the uncured hide and your own panicked breath. You can't see. You can barely hear. The sounds of the room are muffled, distant, as if you are underwater. The roaring in your ears is the sound of your own blood. This is the Capitum Lupanum, the wolf's head covering, and its symbolism is the most potent yet. You are being ritually turned into a monster. In Roman law and folklore, the wolf was an ambiguous creature. It was the sacred animal that suckled Romulus and Remus, the mother of Rome. But it was also a predator, an outlaw, a creature that lived outside the boundaries of human society. I homo esesu, a sacred man, in Roman legal terms, was an outlaw who could be killed by anyone without penalty. By placing the wolf's skin on your head, the state is declaring you to be no longer human. You are a wolf-man, a beast. Your crime has so offended the natural order that you have been cast out of the human race itself. Historians argue intensely about this part of the ritual. Some see it as a purely symbolic act of dehumanization. Others believe it has its roots in ancient Etruscan or even more primitive Italic rituals, a kind of dark magic designed to contain the spiritual pollution of your crime by transforming the criminal into a scapegoat, a creature fit for a strange and terrible sacrifice. You are being made into the monster that your crime suggests you are. Panic begins to set in. Claustrophobia wraps around you like a shroud. You want to claw at the hood, to tear it from your face, to see the light and breathe fresh air again. But your hands are still tied. You are helpless. You can feel the guard's hand on your arm, a steadying pressure in the disorienting darkness. He is your only connection to a world you can no longer see. You try to focus on your other senses. You can feel the cold stone floor through the clumsy wood of your shoes. You can feel the throbbing, rhythmic pain in your back, a fiery reminder of the scourging. You can smell the wolf. It's an intimate, suffocating smell. You can almost feel the ghost of the animal's life, its wildness, its predatory nature, being forced upon you. A weird, academic thought drifts through the panic. The term wolf's head was used in other, later legal systems, like in Old Germanic and English law, to refer to an outlaw. A man who was a wolf's head was outside the law's protection. Did this tradition travel north from Rome? A faint, thousand-year-old echo of this very ritual? Or did different cultures independently arrive at the same grim metaphor? It's a classic case of historical debate, diffusion versus independent invention. A fascinating question for a seminar room, a terrifying reality to have thrust over your head in a damp stone sill. The guard begins to lead you forward again. You stumble, completely blind. Your wooden shoes catch on the uneven floor. You nearly fall. But he holds you up. You are now utterly dependent on your captors. You have been systematically deprived of your identity, your mobility, and now your sight. You are a shuffling, cielo-emping, half-minded human creature in a foul-smelling darkness, being led to the next stage of your making. The ritual is not just happening to you anymore. You are becoming the ritual. Your journey through the darkness is a sensory nightmare. The wolf-miner's skin hood is a hot, suffocating prison. The CLOMP of your wooden shoes provides a clumsy, disorienting soundtrack. You are completely at the mercy of the guard guiding you, a silent presence you can only feel through the pressure on your arm. You are led down more corridors, through what feel like several more doorways. The air changes, growing colder, carrying the unmistakable scent of old stone, damp earth, and something else, despair. Finally, the movement stops. You hear the groan of a heavy iron hinge, a sound that echoes in the muffled world of your hood. You are pushed forward a few steps, and then the hand on your arm releases you. You stand there, alone in the dark, swaying slightly. You hear the iron hinge groan again, followed by the solid, definitive thud of a heavy door closing. A key turns in a lock. A series of metallic clicks that sound like the final full stops at the end of a sentence. You are alone. You reach out your hands, which are still bound in front of you. Your fingers brush against a rough, cold surface, stone. You take a shuffling, clumsy step forward and your other side bumps into another wall. You are in a very small space, a cell. This is the Cullei, the prison. But it's important to understand what a Roman prison was. It wasn't typically a place of long minus-term incarceration. For most crimes, the punishment was a fine, exile, or execution. The prison was not the punishment itself. It was a holding pen, a place to keep you while the state decided what to do with you. Or, in your case, a place to hold you before the final act. You stand in the center of the cell for a long time, trying to adjust. The darkness inside the hood is absolute, but now it's matched by the darkness of the cell. You are in a blackness within a blackness. Your only sensory input is the throbbing of your back, the rough texture of the wolf skin against your face, the unnatural weight of the clogs on your feet, and the musty, dead air of the cell. This waiting is a unique form of torment. It's a suspension of existence. You are no longer in the world of the living, but you are not yet dead. You are in a liminal space, an anteroom to oblivion. This period of waiting was a deliberate part of the punishment. It was meant to give you time to contemplate the totality of your doom, to let the horror sink in not as a single, swift shock, but as a slow, seeping dread. How long will you be here? An hour. I do. There's no way to know. Time ceases to have meaning in the total absence of light. You try to sit, to find some relief for your aching body. You slowly lower yourself, your bound hands making it awkward. You feel for the floor with your foot, the clumsy wooden shoe scraping against the stone. You finally manage to collapse into a sitting position, your brutalized back screaming in protest as it presses against the cold wall. It's in this profound isolation that the true weight of your situation begins to crush you. The public shame, the physical pain, those were overwhelming, but they were also distracting. Here, in the quiet and the dark, there is only you and the knowledge of what is to come. A strange, tangential thought surfaces, a bit of historical trivia. The most famous prison in Rome was the Cullei, a dreadful, subterranean dungeon. Legend says it was originally a system, a place of utter darkness and filth where famous enemies of the state, like the Gallic chief Vercingetorix, were held before their execution. Is this where you are? It's impossible to say. Most prisoners were held in less famous but equally grim cells, often just basement rooms in administrative buildings like the one you just left. The bureaucracy of Roman justice had many such grim corners. The debate among scholars about these waiting periods is fascinating. Was it purely for the psychological torment of the prisoner, or did it serve a religious purpose? Some argue that this isolation was a period of ripening, allowing the spiritual pollution of the crime to fully concentrate within the offender, making the eventual disposal more effective, like gathering all the trash in one bag before throwing it out. You are the bag. You try to regulate your breathing inside the hot, stinking hood. Inhale, exhale. The air is recycled, thick with the scent of wolf and your own fear. You wonder about the wolf itself. Where did they get it? Was it hunted in the hills outside Rome specifically for this purpose? Was there a man whose job it was to be the official wolf-trapper for the judiciary? You picture a grumpy, underpaid civil servant complaining about the difficulty of finding a wolf with the correct size, the sheer logistics of this ritual, the mundane details behind the ground, terrible symbolism, are a source of endless, morbid fascination. Hours pass, or maybe it's only minutes. Your sense of time is completely gone. The silence is broken only by the sound of your own breathing and the frantic, useless beating of your own heart. This is the true beginning of the end. Not the verdict, not the scourging, but this silent, sightless, solitary waiting. This is where your world truly ends, and the world of the ritual takes over completely. You are no longer waiting for something to happen. You are waiting for everything to stop. The sound, when it comes, is so unexpected it makes you jump. It's not the groan of the heavy door you were anticipating. It's a frantic, scrabbling noise, accompanied by a high-pitched, indignant squawk. It sounds like it's right here in the cell with you. Then, a small section of the wall near the floor grinds open. A square of dim, grey light appears, blinding you even through the thick wolf-miner's skin hood. A small trapdoor, a feeding slot you hadn't known was there. An object is unceremoniously shoved through the opening and lands with a flutter and another squawk on the stone floor. The trapdoor slams shut, plunging you back into absolute blackness. But you are no longer alone. There is a creature in the cell with you. It's rustling around. Its claws making scratching sounds on the stone. It bumps against your wooden shoe, lets out another angry squawk, and flutters away to the other side of the small space. You know what it is. It's a rooster. A rooster. A common, everyday farm animal. Now you're somewhat in the sightless pit. The sheer absurdity of it is staggering. After the grim solemnity of the scourging and the hooding, this feels like a prank. A joke from a cruel, mad god. The rooster begins to crow. It's not the proud, announcing crow of a rooster in a farmyard. It's a confused, panic sound, trapped and echoing in the tiny cell. It's a sound of domestic life, of mornings and sunlight, grotesquely out of place in this subterranean darkness. This is the beginning of the menagerie. The first of your animal companions has arrived. The inclusion of a rooster in the punishment is one of its most debated and peculiar elements. Why a rooster? What did this creature symbolize to the Romans in this specific, horrifying context? One popular theory connects the rooster to the crime of parricidium itself. A rooster, by crowing at the dawn, is a symbol of the sun, of light, and of the natural order of things. A patricide, by killing a parent, has committed the ultimate act against the natural order. Therefore, the rooster is included as a witness, a living symbol of the very nature that the criminal has violated. It's a feathered accusation, forced to share your final hours. Another, more Freudian interpretation, which many modern historians find a bit too convenient, suggests a connection to Oedipus. The crowing of a cock was sometimes associated with prophecy and revealing hidden truth. By placing it in the sack, the Romans were symbolically including a creature that sees the truth of the crime, even in the darkness. Then there is a more prosaic, almost insulting theory. Some scholars argue the rooster was included simply because it was aggressive and noisy. The idea was to make the final moments of the condemned as unpleasant as possible. The rooster, trapped in a dark, confined space, would likely become frantic, pecking and clawing at anything it touched, including you. It's not symbolism, it's just calculated misery. You sit there on the cold floor, your back on fire, your head in a wolf-miner's skin prison, listening to this confused bird stumble around your cell. Its presence changes the atmosphere entirely. A solemn, terrifying silence has been replaced by a kind of farcical, barnyard chaos. You can smell it now, to the dusty, bird-miner's smell of its feathers, mingling with the stench of wolf hide and your own sweat. You try to move your legs, to shift away from it. The rooster, startled by the clomp sound of your wooden shoes, lets out another series of frantic squawks and flutters its wings wildly. You can feel the rush of air as it flies blindly across the cell, bumping into the opposite wall. This creature is as much a victim as you are. It did not ask for this. It was, just this morning, probably pecking at grain in some sunny yard. Now it's here, in the dark, trapped with a shuffling, wolf-headed monster. From the rooster's perspective, this is a terrifying, inexplicable nightmare. A small, hysterical giggle escapes your lips, muffled by the hoot. The sound is alien to you. Here you are, at the absolute nadir of human existence, condemned to the most horrific crime, and you're sharing your final moments with a chicken. The Roman state, in all its power and majesty, has decided that your end requires not just terror and pain, but also this layer of profound, cosmic absurdity. The rooster eventually settles in a corner, muttering to itself in a series of low clucks and gurgles. The quiet returns. But it's a different kind of quiet now. It's a shared quiet, filled with the presence of another living, breathing, and deeply confused creature. You are no longer just a prisoner. You are now a usurper in hell, and you have the chilling realization that this is only the beginning. The collection is not yet complete. More companions are coming. An unknowable amount of time passes. The rooster has fallen into a nervous, twitchy silence, occasionally broken by a soft cluck or the rustle of feathers. Your world has shrunk to the sound of its small movements and the throbbing landscape of your own pain. You've drifted into a state that is neither sleep nor wakefulness, a dull stupor of dread and exhaustion. The grinding sound of the trapdoor opening again jolts you back to sharp, panicked awareness. The dim square of light appears. This time, there is no squawking or fluttering. Something is slid through the opening with a dry, whispery scrape. It lands on the floor with a soft, heavy thud. The trapdoor slams shut. Silence. The rooster, disturbed again, lets out a single, questioning squawk and then falls quiet. There is no other sound, no movement, but the quality of the silence in the cell has changed again. It's heavier now, tense, charged with a new and different kind of fear. You don't need to see it to know it's there. You can feel its presence. A cold, still, watchful energy that is utterly alien to the frantic panic of the rooster. Slowly, carefully, you shift your position, trying to get a sense of where it is. As you move, your wooden shoe scrapes against the stone floor. From the corner of the cell comes a low, soft hiss. It's a snake. Of all the creatures to be sealed in a small, dark space with, a snake is perhaps the most primal source of fear. It moves without sound. It can strike without warning. Its presence is pure, distilled menace. Your heart, which had settled into a dull, steady rhythm of despair, begins to pound again. Every nerve in your body is on high alert. Where is it? Is it venomous? The Romans certainly had access to vipers and other poisonous snakes. It seems unlikely they would go to the trouble of including a snake only to choose a harmless one. The state is not known for its half-minus measures. This addition to your grim menagerie is thick with symbolism, far more ancient and straightforward than the rooster. The snake is a Thanoric creature, an animal of the underworld. It lives in holes in the earth. It sheds its skin. It is associated with death, poison, and dark magic. In many mythologies, it is a creature of chaos, a primordial enemy of gods and men. By putting a snake in the cell with you, the state is making a powerful statement. You belong with the creatures of darkness. You are being given a companion from the world you are about to enter. There's also the direct, visceral symbolism. A snake is a silent, deadly betrayer. It strikes from the shadows, just as a patriarch betrays the most sacred trust from within the family. The snake is your crime, given scaly, slithering form. The debate among classicists on this point is less about why a snake, and more about which snake. Some ancient sources are specific, mentioning a particular type of viper. Others are vague, Just saying a serpent. This lack of specificity is frustrating for historians but terrifying for you. Not knowing is somehow worse. Is it a large, slow minus moving constrictor, or a small, first, deadly viper? You remain frozen, your back pressed against the wall. You are a blind man in a dark room with a snake. This is the stuff of nightmares, made horrificously real. You try to pull your feet up, to tuck yourself into a smaller ball, to offer less of a target. The clumsy wooden shoes make this almost impossible. They feel like anchors, mooring you to the floor, to the snake's domain. You can hear it now, a faint, dry slithering sound as it begins to explore its new environment. It's moving along the base of the wall, coming your way. You hold your breath, trying to be as still as a statue. The sound stops. Does it near you? Can it sense your warmth? Do snakes even do that? Your mind is a flurry of useless, panicked questions about head polity. A cold, obscure fact surfaces. In some parts of the Roman world, a household snake, a Draco, was considered a good luck charm, a guardian spirit of the family home or genius loci. They were often harmless species kept to control pests. The irony is sickening. The creature that symbolizes the protection of the home is now being used to punish the one who has destroyed it. It's a perfect, cruel inversion. The rooster, in its corner, seems to sense the new arrival as well. It lets out a low, guttural warning sound. There is a sudden, violent hiss from the snake's direction, and the rooster falls silent again, utterly terrorized. Your world, already a prison of darkness and pain, has now become a minefield. Every potential movement is fraught with danger. You can't see the threat. You can only imagine it. A cold, scaly body brushing against your leg in the dark. A sharp, sudden pain. The weight of the wolf-minus skin hood feels heavier than ever. The desire to rip it off, to see, is overwhelming. But you know you can't. The darkness is part of the punishment. The blindness is the point. You are meant to be helpless. You are meant to be tormented by your own imagination. The Roman state has orchestrated this perfectly. They haven't just thrown you in a room with a snake. They have created the perfect psychological conditions for the snake to be as terrifying as it can possibly be. You are the unwilling audience and star of a masterfully crafted horror play, and the curtain is still rising. The cell has become a landscape of imagined terrors. The snake is a silent, coiling threat in one corner. The rooster a bundle of nervous energy in another. You are a blind, crippled statue in the middle, afraid to move, afraid to breathe. The air is thick with the smells of wolf, chicken, and now a faint, dry, dusty scent you associate with the snake. It's a foul potpourri of doom. You don't know how much time has passed before the grinding of the trapdoor shatters the tense silence for a third time. The familiar, hated square of light appears. This time, the thing that has shoved through is heavier. It lands with a soft, thushy thud and a terrified yelp. The door slams shut. Another presence. This one is different. It's not the frantic energy of the bird or the cold stillness of the reptile. This is a warm-blooded, mammalian panic. You can hear it whimpering. Small, high-pitched sounds of fear and confusion. You can hear the click of its claws on the stone floor as it scrambles to its feet. It begins to pace, its nails making a frantic, scratching sound. It's a dog. Of all the companions, this one feels the most wrong. A dog is man's oldest friend. A symbol of loyalty, companionship, and domestic harmony. To find one here, in this pit of despair, is a special kind of cruelty. The dog continues to whimper and pace. It's clearly disoriented and frightened. It bumps into the wall, yelps, and changes direction. It's only a matter of time before it finds you. You brace yourself. A soft, wet nose presses against your bound hands. The dog sniffs you, its tail giving a single, hopeful thump against the floor. Then it licks your fingers. A wave of profound, soul-crushing sadness washes over you. This creature is not here to harm you. It is here because it is a dog, and you are a person, and in its simple, loyal mind. A person is a source of potential comfort in a scary place. It whines again, a soft, pleading sound, and pushes its head onto your hands, seeking reassurance. This, you realize, is the point of the dog. Its presence is a living, breathing accusation of your crime. Parricidium is the ultimate act of disloyalty. It is the betrayal of the family, the foundational unit of the Roman state. And what better symbol of loyalty to include in your punishment than a dog? Its trusting, innocent nature is a stark contrast to your calculated, unnatural cruelty. Every whimper, every lick, every hopeful nudge of its head is a fresh indictment. The historical debate around the dog is less about its symbolism, which seems fairly clear, and more about its specific role. Was it just a symbol, or was it expected to turn on you? Some historians suggest that in the chaos and terror of the final moments inside the sack, a panicked dog might bite and attack anything it touches. Its loyalty would be broken by fear, mirroring how your own natural loyalties were broken by your crime. You would be attacked, in the end, by loyalty itself. A strange, sad detail comes to mind. In the ruins of Pompeii, archaeologists found the remains of a dog, chained to a post, curled next to the body of a small child. The dog could have broken its chain but chose to stay. That is the Roman ideal of fidelitas, of loyalty. And you have been found guilty of its opposite. The dog, not getting the comfort it seeks from your unresponsive, tied hands, lies down with a heavy sigh, its warm body pressed against your leg. You can feel its heart beating. At first, frightened rhythm against your skin. The contact is both a comfort and a torture. It's a reminder of a world of simple affection, a world you have been violently ejected from. The rooster, from its corner, makes a nervous clucking sound. The dog lifts its head, and a low growl rumbles in its chest. The rooster immediately falls silent. The snake, so far, remains quiet, a silent partner in this bizarre tableau. You now have a small, dysfunctional, and deeply symbolic ecosystem of despair in your cell. The rooster, representing the violated natural order. The snake, representing the dark, thanoic nature of your crime. And now the dog, representing the broken bonds of loyalty. It's a carefully curated collection of living metaphors, all designed to reflect the horror of your actions back at you. You sit in the suffocating darkness of the wolf-skin hood, a terrified dog pressed against your leg, and listen to the frantic breathing of the other creatures. The state has not just sentenced you to death. It has sentenced you to a masterclass in your own guilt. Taught by a faculty of frightened animals, the thought is so monstrously creative, so uniquely Roman in its blend of legalism, religion, and psychological cruelty, that you almost have to admire the sheer, twisted artistry of it all. This isn't just an execution. It's a thesis statement on the nature of your crime, and you are the final, bloody footnote. The cell has become a tense, breathing entity. The air is thick with the mingled scents and fears of 4 different species, all trapped in the dark. The dog's warmth against your leg is a constant, tragic reminder of a world you've lost. You have grown accustomed to the new, grim reality of your situation, sinking into a dull acceptance. There can be no more surprises. The menagerie must be complete. You are run. The grinding sound of the trapdoor once again rips through the quiet. The square of light appears, but this time, the process is different. There's a commotion outside the door, a man's frustrated grunt, a high minor pitch, chattering shriek, and the sound of something scrambling. Then, a small, wary body is shoved through the opening. It doesn't just land. It hits the floor, bounces, and immediately launches itself up the wall, chittering in a symphony of pure, distilled rage. The trapdoor slams shut, and the cell is plunged into a new kind of chaos. This creature is not like the others. It is not confused like the rooster. or still like the snake, or seeking comfort like the dog. This creature is a whirlwind of frantic, aggressive energy. You can hear its small, clawed hands and feet scrabbling against the stone walls, moving with an unnatural speed and agility. Its creatures, a sound that is chillingly, disturbingly close to a human scream. It's a monkey. A monkey. Here, in a Roman prison cell. The sheer, unadulterated absurdity of this final edition is breathtaking. Roosters, snakes, and dogs have a certain grim, symbolic logic. But a monkey, it feels like the state has officially crossed the line from terrifying religious ritual into surrealist performance art. The monkey continues its frantic exploration, climbing the walls as far as it can, then dropping to the floor and starting again. The dog, startled and threatened by this new, noisy intruder, begins to bark, a deep, guttural sound that echoes violently in the small space. The rooster joins in, squawking in pure terror. The monkey screeches back at the dog, a sound of defiance and fury. The cell, which was a tense space of quiet dread, has now exploded into a cacophony of animal panic. It's a madhouse, and in the center of it all, Yusuf, blind and helpless, the unwilling ringmaster of a circus from hell. The inclusion of the monkey is, for historians, the most baffling undebated part of the entire ritual. It appears in some ancient sources describing the punishment, but not all of them. This has led to a major scholarly argument. Was the monkey a later, more exotic addition to the punishment, perhaps added during the High Empire when such animals were more common? Or was it part of the original ritual, its meaning simply lost to us? The prevailing theory for its symbolism is as strange as the animal itself. A monkey or an ape, to the Romans, was seen as a twisted parody of a human being. It was the simile, the imitator, that looked vaguely human. It had horns. It could mimic human actions, but it was not human. It was a base, foolish, and grotesque caricature. By adding a monkey to the set, the state was making its final, most insulting statement. You, the patricoid, are like this creature. You have the form of a man, but you have acted without reason, without pietas, without the essential qualities of a Roman. You are a defective human, a mockery of a man. The monkey is your funhouse minus mirror reflection, and you will die with it. Another, less common theory suggests the monkey represents the primal, animalistic rage that must have driven you to your crime. It is your id, given sorry, screeching form, a living embodiment of the base instincts that overpowered your civilized Roman self. The monkey, in its frantic circuit of the cell, suddenly leaps onto you. Its small, surprisingly strong hands grab onto the wolf-minus skin hood. Its sharp claws dig into the hide. You cry out in surprise and pain as it begins to climb you as if you were a tree, chittering directly into the fur next to your ear. The dog goes wild, barking and stepping at the monkey on your back. You flinch, trying to shake the creature off, but it clings on, its weary body a tense ball of muscle. This is the final degradation. You are no longer even a man being punished. You are a piece of furniture in a cage of frantic animals, a climbing frame for a deranged monkey, a source of fear for a confused dog, a warm object to be avoided by a rooster and a snake. You are nothing, and that is exactly what the ritual intended. It has succeeded. It has systematically stripped you of your name, your home, your body, your senses, your humanity, and finally, your dignity. All that is left is this chaotic, noisy, terrified mess. The grand, solemn ritual of the state has devolved into this, a stinking, lightless room filled with the sounds of shrieking, barking, and squawking. It's not a noble, tragic end. It's a pathetic, squalid, and utterly insane one. And the final journey hasn't even begun yet. In the midst of the barking, screeching chaos, a new thought worms its way into your mind. It's a thought so mundane, so bureaucratic, that it's almost comical in its contrast to your terrifying reality. Someone had to arrange all of this. This isn't just a random assortment of animals. This is a specific, legally mandated shopping list from hell. A rooster, a snake, a dog, and a monkey. Somewhere in the vast, sprawling administration of Rome, there is a person whose job it is to procure these creatures on demand for the city's most grotesque executions. You picture him. Let's call him Marcus. A hurried, middle-aged civil servant in the quartermaster's office. He has a perpetually worried expression and a stack of wax tablets on his desk. Most of his days are spent sourcing grain for the public dole, procuring mules for the army, or haggling over the price of lumber for a new bridge. Mundane, respectable work, but every now and then, a sealed scroll arrives from the office of the Praetor Urbanus. Marcus's stomach sinks when he sees the specific seal. He knows what it is. It's a Cullei's order. He unrolls the scroll and reads the familiar shilling list. 1 Gallus domesticus. Adult. Vocal. 1 serpens. Local variety. Temperament irrelevant. 1 Canis familius. Disposition unimportant. 1 CMA. Species non-critical. Must be lively. This is the part of his job Marcus hates. It's a logistical nightmare. The rooster is the easy part. He can send his lowest ranking assistant down to the sub-URA market. There are 100 vendors selling live chickens. He just has to make sure the assistant gets a receipt for the public record. Price, 2 sesterces. Simple. The dog is also relatively straightforward, though more unpleasant. The city is full of stray dogs. The dog catchers, a grim and unpopular profession, can provide one on short notice. They'll grab some poor, mangy cur from an alleyway. No one will miss it. Price, a small fee to the dog catcher, maybe 5 sesterces, for his trouble. The snake is where it starts to get tricky. You can't just buy a snake at the market. Marcus has to send a runner out to one of the snake charmers who sometimes perform near the temples, or worse, to a specialist who lives out in the marshy countryside along the Tiber. These people are weird. They're secretive and charge exorbitant rates. They know the state is a desperate buyer. Marcus has to haggle, to argue that 20 sesterces is an outrageous price for a common viper. It's undignified. But the monkey is Marcus's personal hell. Monkeys are not native to Italy. They are expensive, exotic pets imported from North Africa or Egypt. They are status symbols for the wealthy, kept in cages in the gardens of rich villas. The state doesn't keep a stable of monkeys on hand just in case someone commits patriarchy. So when the order comes, Marcus has to go on a desperate search. He can't just requisition one from a senator's wife. That would be a diplomatic disaster. So he has to go to the exotic animal traders down by the Emporium, the port of Rome. These are shady, unreliable men who deal in everything from parrots to crocodiles. They see Marcus coming a mile away, with his official tablet and his worried expression. The price for a monkey skyrockets. 50 sesterces. 100. Last time, one particularly brazen raider demanded 200, claiming it was a highly intelligent specimen from deepest Nubia. Marcus paid it. He had to. The law is the law. The ritual must have its monkey. This entire speculative tangent is a strange comfort. It reframes your situation. Just for a moment, not as a grand, cosmic punishment, but as the end result of a series of frustrating bureaucratic tasks. Your doom is someone else's administrative headache. This is a side of history that is almost never recorded. We have the laws, the descriptions of the rituals, the high-minded philosophical justifications. But we rarely have the paperwork, the expense reports, the work orders. Historians must reconstruct these mundane realities from scattered clues. They argue about the logistics. Was there a dedicated state-run vivarium for punishment animals? A sort of anti-zoo? Or was it always an ad-hoc scramble, like the one you're imagining for poor Marcus? The consensus leans towards the latter. The punishment was rare enough that maintaining a standing menagerie would have been inefficient. Your monkey, currently using your wolf-skinned head as a watcher while it creeches at the barking dog, was probably the cause of a significant amount of stress for a mid-level bureaucrat. He might have had to justify the expense to his superior. Yes, I know it's more than the cost of a new chariot wheel, sir, but the law is very specific. It requires a CMA. The thought is so absurd it almost makes you want to laugh again. But the sound is choked off by the sheer misery of your position. The monkey's claws are sharp. The dog's barking is deafening. The rooster is having a nervous breakdown in the corner. The snake is somewhere, and you are at the center of this grim, expensive, and officially sanctioned chaos, all because some poor functionary named Marcus did his job. The cacophony in the cell eventually subsides into a tense, twitchy quiet. The dog has barked itself hoarse and is now just issuing low, periodic growls. The monkey, having decided you are not a threat, has settled on your shoulder, its small, leathery hand occasionally grooming the wolf fur of your hood with unnerving gentleness. The rooster is huddled in the corner, catatonic with fear. The snake remains a silent, terrifying question mark. The heavy door of the cell groans open. This time, it's not the small trapdoor, it's the main entrance. Light, bright and painful even through the hood, floods the space. Two guards step in, their silhouettes dark against the sudden glare. The animal chaos erupts again for a moment, then is silenced by the guard's authoritative presence. One of them grabs the monkey off your shoulder with a practiced, firm grip, eliciting a final, furious shriek. The other guard pulls you roughly to your feet. The transition is jarring. You stumble on your clumsy wooden shoes. The time for waiting is over. The final phase is beginning. They lead you out of the cell and down another corridor. This one is different. It slopes upwards, and you can feel a faint breeze. The first fresh air you felt in what seems like a lifetime. It smells of sunshine, dust, and the distant, familiar scent of the city. You emerge into another enclosed courtyard, blindingly bright after the darkness. You stand blinking, your unseen eyes watering inside the hood. As your senses adjust, a new smell dominates. It's a thick, heavy, animal smell. The smell of old leather, oil, and something else, something final. The smell of tar. In the center of the courtyard, suspended from a thick wooden tripod, is the reason for that smell. It is the sack. The Cullei. It's bigger than you imagined. Much bigger. It's not a simple burlap bag. It is a monstrous thing, stitched together from the hides of several large oxen. The leather is thick, dark, and greasy, coated in what you now realize is a thick layer of pitch or tar to make it waterproof. It's a huge, shapeless, leathery worm, hanging limply from the tripod, its wide mouth gaping open like a silent scream. This is your coffin, your tomb, your final, shared living space. Seeing it, even as a vague, dark shape through the imitations of the hood, is a physical blow. The reality of it is far more visceral than the abstract idea. This is not a metaphor. It is a real, physical object, crafted by human hands for the specific purpose of ending you animal companions in the most terrifying way imaginable. Who makes these? The question returns, this time with a darker edge. It's not a frustrated bureaucrat. It's a craftsman, a leather worker, a specialist. Is there a guild of execution sack makers? Do they use a special kind of ox hide? Is there a particular stitch that is legally required? Historians have debated the exact construction of the Cullei. Some sources say it was a single, large ox hide. Others, more plausibly, argue it would have to be several hides sewn together to be large enough to hold a person and four animals. The waterproofing is also a point of discussion. Was it tar, pitch, beeswax? The door was clear, to ensure the sack sank, and that it remained sealed. a self-contained universe of horror. For as long as possible, a group of men, the same grim faced functionaries from the scourging, are standing by the sack. One of them holds the monkey, which is struggling in his grip. Another has the rooster tucked under his arm. A third man holds a small, writhing burlap bag the snake. The dog is on a rope leash, whining and pulling back, sensing the wrongness of the situation. The menagerie is assembled. The final cast is ready. You are shoved forward, towards the gaping mouth of the sack. The smell is overpowering now. It's the smell of death, industrial and organic at the same time. The guards untie the rope binding your hands. For a fleeting, insane moment, you feel a surge of hope. Are they letting you go? The hope dies instantly. The freedom is only so you can be manhandled more easily. Two of the functionaries grab your arms. They lift you off your feet. You check. Are useless. Clumsy gesture with your heavy wooden clogs. They are pushing you towards the opening. You twist your body. Immersed. Desperate. Animal instinct to resist. It's no use. They are strong. Practiced. You see the dark, oily rim of the sack's mouth rushing towards you. It's a perfect circle of blackness. A portal to a world from which there is no return. This is the last thing you will see, however faintly, of the outside world. The last light. The last sky. Then, they push you in. You fall into the darkness of the sack. It's not a long fall. You land with a jarring thud on the greasy, yielding leather at the bottom. The air is immediately, shockingly foul. It's the concentrated stench of tar and old hide, a thick, chemical smell that coats the back of your throat. For a moment, you are alone in the dark, disoriented, your ears ringing. Then, the final procession begins. The sack is not sealed yet. It's hoisted up, still hanging from the tripod, and two men position a simple, -willed cart beneath it, with a series of grunts and coordinated effort. They lower the entire contraption, the heavy sack with you inside it, onto the flatbed of the cart. The cart groans under the sudden weight. You feel the lurch as the cart begins to move. The journey is rough. Every rut in the road, every cobblestone, is transmitted through the cart and into your body. You are tossed from side to side, bumping against the oily leather walls. The wolf skin hood, the wooden shoes. The sack itself, it's a prison within a prison within a prison within a prison. Even with the hood and the sack muffling the sound, you can hear that you are back out in the city. The noises are low, indistinct roar, the familiar symphony of row. But you are no longer a part of it. You are cargo, a piece of freight being transported to its final destination. This last ride through the city was a critical part of the public spectacle. It wasn't enough to execute you. The execution had to be seen. The people had to witness the strange, terrible parade of the Cullei on its way to the water. It was a mobile cautionary tale. What did the people on the street say? They saw a humble cart, drawn by a single, trotting mule. On the cart, a huge, black, misshapen leather bag, bulging in odd places. They would have known what it was. The sight would have been rare enough to be memorable and terrifying. Whispers would follow the cart down the street. It's the sack. Someone has killed their father. The gods are displeased. Mothers would pull their children close. Men would make gestures to ward off evil. It was a moment of collective, superstitious dread. Your anonymous, lurching journey was a source of public theater and religious awe. Historians debate the standard route for this procession. Did it take the most direct path to the river, or did it, as some suspect, take a deliberately long and winding route through the most populated parts of the city to maximize its visibility and moral impact? The latter seems more in keeping with the Roman taste for spectacle. This wasn't just about disposal, it was about demonstration. Inside the sack, you are oblivious to the specific streets. You are just a passenger on the roughest ride of your life. The cart makes a sharp turn, and you slide across the bottom of the sack, your shoulder hitting the side with a painful thud. The motion is nauseating. It's like being on a small boat in a violent storm. Then, you hear a new sound. A frantic scratching from above. A familiar screech. The monkey has been dropped in. It lands on you with a surprising weight. Its sharp claws digging into your tunic. It crumbles off you immediately, beginning a frantic, vertical exploration of its new, leathery prison. A moment later, a flutter of wings and an indignant squawk. The rooster is in. It lands in a heap near your feet and begins a panicked, flapping dance of terror. The cart continues its slow, rumbling journey. You lie at the bottom of the sack, a heap of misery, with a screeching monkey and a flapping rooster as your companions in this claustrophobic hell. The dog and the snake are yet to come. They are saving them for the grand finale, right before the ceiling. A strange, cold detail floats into your awareness. The cart itself. What kind of cart was used? Was it a special execution cart? Almost certainly not. The Roman state was pragmatic. It would have been a simple, all-purpose utility cart. The kind used to haul garbage or construction debris. The same cart that carried you to your death today might have been used to carry sacks of grain tomorrow. The sheer, banal indifference of the state is, in its own way, as terrifying as the ritual itself. Your death is a temporary and messy inconvenience for the city's infrastructure. The air quality in the sack is deteriorating rapidly. The chemical smell of the tar is now mixed with the smells of panicked animals. The oxygen is being used up for breathing. Terrified beings. It's getting hot, close, and hard to breathe. You can tell from the sounds and the motion that you are leaving the densely packed city streets. The rumbling of the cobblestones gives way to a softer, more uneven ride. You are on a dirt path. The roar of the crowd fades, replaced by a new sound, faint at first, then growing louder. The sound of water, the lapping of waves, the cry of gulls. The cart creaks to a halt. The journey is over. You have arrived at the final destination. The cart is stopped, but the world inside the sack is still a chaos of sound and motion. The monkey is chittering, scrambling up and down the leather walls. The rooster is squawking, a continuous, grating sound of pure panic. You lie at the bottom, a passive observer in your own final moments, listening to the muffled sounds from the outside world. The murmur of men's voices, the creak of the cart, the gentle, mocking sound of water lapping against a shore or a pier. This is it, the final staging area. You hear footsteps approaching the cart. The large flap that serves as the sack's opening is pulled back. A rectangular bright, blinding sky appears above you. The sudden light sends the monkey and the rooster into a fresh frenzy. The light is painful, an unwelcome intruder in your dark, sealed world. You try to turn your head away. A useless gesture inside the wolf-minus skin hood. A man's face appears in the opening, silhouetted against the sky. He peers down into the sack. His expression a mixture of morbid curiosity and grim duty. He seems to be checking on the contents, ensuring the primary component is still viable. Then he has gone, and his place is taken by another object. A writhing, squirming burlap bag. It is held over the opening for a moment, and then the bottom is released. The snake falls into the sack. It lands with a soft thud on the leather floor, not far from your seat. The burlap bag is withdrawn. The snake is now loose. A coil of cold, silent menace added to the hot, noisy chaos. You instinctively try to pull your legs away. A difficult maneuver with the heavy wooden shoes. This is a moment that is often debated by those who study the ritual. Why add some of the animals at the start of the journey, and some at the end? The most likely answer is a blend of symbolism and grim practicality. You, the main offender, are put in first. The monkey and rooster, noisy and frantic, are added to make the procession through the city a more vivid and disturbing spectacle for the public. But the dog and the snake, the creatures most likely to bite, are saved for last. This minimizes the risk to the executioners themselves and maximizes the terror for you in the final, sealed moments. Next, A shadow falls over the opening again. You hear a frightened, pitiful whining sound, the click of claws scrabbling for purchase. The dog, it is being forced towards the edge. It clearly does not want to enter. It knows, with an animal's unerring instinct, that this is a place of death. There's a grunt of effort from a guard, a final, desperate yelp from the dog, and then it is pushed in. It lands heavily, almost on top of you, a tangle of legs and fur. It scrambles to its feet, its whole body trembling. It lets out a long, mournful howl, a sound of utter despair that seems to suck all the remaining air out of the sack. The menagerie is complete. You, a rooster, a monkey, a snake, and a dog, all sealed in an ox-hide bag. A grotesque parody of Noah's Ark, sailing not to salvation, but to oblivion. The man's face reappears at the opening. He gives one last look down into the pit of chaos he has helped to create. Then he pulls the heavy leather flap closed. The world is plunged back into absolute, total blackness. This is a new kind of darkness. It's not the solemn, waiting darkness of the cell. It is a thick, hot, and hideously crowded darkness. The air is immediately unbreathable, a toxic soup of tar, animal fear, and your own recycled breath. The sounds are overwhelming, a multi-minus species symphony of terror happening inches from your ears. The monkey shrieks, the dog barks and howls, the rooster flaps and squawks. And somewhere in the dark, the snake is slithering, a silent, deadly bass note in this horrifying orchestra. This is the moment your world truly ends. Not when the sack hits the water. Not when you take your final breath. It ends now. The moment the light is sealed away for the last time. The moment you are left alone with the chaos the state has chosen for you. You are no longer a person. You are an ingredient, a component in a recipe for a horrific death. You are losing all sense of self. Becoming just another terrified creature in a dark, stinking bag. The wolf-skin hood, once the peak of your humiliation, now seems almost irrelevant. The world inside the sack has become a far greater prison. You can feel the sack being lifted from the cart. You are being moved. This is the last transition. The final few feet of your journey on the surface of the earth. The sealing of the light is a definitive, soul-minus crushing end. But the physical reality of your new world is just beginning to assert itself. You are lying on the bottom of the sack, a chaotic ecosystem of terror unfolding on top of and around you. The dog, in its panic, is scrambling, its claws finding no purchase on the oily leather. Its paws scrabble against your legs, your chest. It's not attacking. It's just trying to find stable ground in a world that has none. It's hot. Frantic breath is on your face, a strangely intimate horror. The monkey, a creature of heights, is a vertical blur of motion. It shimmies up the side of the sack, chittering, then loses its grip and tumbles back down, landing on the dog, which yelps and snaps. The two animals become a rolling, screeching, barking ball of fur and fear, right next to your head. The sheer volume is staggering. It's a physical assault on your ears. The rooster is perhaps the most pathetic figure in this drama. It's a creature of the ground, but this ground is unstable and crowded with predators. It flutters wildly, trying to find a safe corner, but there are no corners. It bumps into the dog, burning a terrifying growl. It flutters near your head, its wings beat in a dusty, frantic rhythm against the wolf-skin hood. It is a creature of pure, uncommercial panic. And the snake. The snake is the silent terror. You can't see it. You can't always hear it, but you know it's there. Is it coiled in a corner? Is it slithering under you? Is the slight pressure you feel on your ankle just a fold in the leather? Or is it the muscular body of the serpent? Every unidentified touch, every slight shift in the sack's contents, sends a fresh jolt of adrenaline through you. This is the genius, the diabolical, twisted genius of the punishment. It's not a simple, clean execution. It is outsourced chaos. The state doesn't have to lay another hand on you. They have created a small, self-contained, self-destructing universe. They have wound up the mechanism, sealed the lid, and now they just have to step back and let the physics of fear run its course. Will the snake bite the dog? Will the dog, in its terror, attack the monkey? Will one of them, in the dark, mistake you for a threat? These are the questions that the ritual forces. The animals are not your executioners. They are your fellow victims, and they're predictable. Panicked reactions are the instruments of your final torment. A strange, academic thought penetrates the haze of fear. The combination of animals. Is it random? Or is there a symbolic logic at play? A common theory among classicists is that the animals represent a violation of the different spheres of life. The dog represents the betrayal of the domestic sphere domus. The rooster and the snake, often associated with the land and the underworld, represent a perversion of the sacred earth terror. And the monkey. The monkey represents the mockery of the human sphere itself, humanitas. It's a complete, systematic, symbolic annihilation of your connection to every ordered part of the world. You feel a sharp, sudden pain in your hand. You cry out, a muffled sound inside the hood. The monkey, in its frantic scrabbling, has bitten you. It's not a vicious, aggressive bite, but a quick, panicked nip of fear. It draws blood. You can feel the warm, wet stickiness on your fingers. The smell of your blood now joins the foul cocktail of scents in the sack. The dog, smelling it, stops barking for a moment and begins to sniff intently in your direction. A low growl rumbling in its chest. The situation has escalated. The first blood has been drawn, not by the state, but by the chaos the state has created. This is the ultimate horror of your situation. You are not just being killed. You are being subsumed into a state of pure, primal, animal nature. The laws of Rome, of civilization, of humanity, no longer apply in this dark, netherworld. The only law here is the law of tooth and claw, of fear and panic. You have been cast out of the human race and thrown into a cage with beasts, and you are all going down together. The sack lurches as it's carried by the functionaries. You are being moved from the cart. You can feel the sway of their steps. You are approaching the water's edge. The terrible, cramped party inside your leather coffin is about to get its final, uninvited guest, the sea itself. You feel the world tilt. The men carrying the sack are hoisting it, preparing for the final act. For a moment, you are suspended, swinging gently. A pendulum of doom. The chaos inside the sack momentarily subsides. The animals perhaps as confused by the strange new motion as you are. In this brief, relative quiet, you hear a new sound from the outside world, sharp and distinct. It's the sound of a needle. A thick, curved, metal needle, punching through the heavy leather of the sack's opening. Pop. It's followed by the rasping sound of a thick, wax thread being pulled tight. Johnson. They are sewing you in. Pop. Zip. The sounds are methodical, rhythmic, and utterly final. Each pop of the needle is a new star of pain in the constellation of your dread. Each zip of the thread is the sound of your world shrinking, or the last sliver of hope being stitched away. This is the point of no return. Until this moment, a theoretical possibility of escape existed. A sudden pardon from the emperor, a riot, an earthquake, some divine, miraculous intervention. But with each stitch, that theoretical space gets smaller. The needle and thread are tools of the state, but they feel like the instruments of fate itself, methodically weaving the end of your story. Who is this man, the sewer? Is he a sailmaker? Perhaps borrowed from the docks for his skill with heavy canvas and leather. Or is he just one of the regular functionaries, handed a needle and thread and told to get on with it? You picture his hands, strong and calloused, working with a detached, professional competence. HES not thinking about the screaming monkey or the terrified man inside. HES focused on his stitch work, making sure the seam is strong, making sure the knots are tight. He is a craftsman, and his product is a perfectly sealed tomb. This detail, the sewing of the sack, is one that appears consistently in the ancient sources. It was a critical step. An improperly sealed sack might leak too quickly, granting the condemned a swift drowning, which would defeat the purpose of the prolonged, chaotic torment, or it might allow one of the animals to escape, ruining the symbolic integrity of the punishment. The seam had to be perfect. It was a matter of professional pride. Pop, says Ip. The sounds are closer now. The opening is shrinking. The small amount of stale air that was circulating is cut off. The air inside becomes instantly hotter, thicker, and harder to breathe. Your lungs burn with each shallow gasp. The animals sense the change too. The sealing of their world. The final closing of the trap. The dog begins to howl again. A long, mournful cry of pure despair that vibrates through the entire sack. The monkey scratches, clawing at the freshly stitched seam. A futile, desperate attempt to undo the work of the needle. A bizarre question floats through your mind. What kind of thread are they using? Was it linen, sinew, or hair? Did the law specify? This is the kind of question that fills footnotes in academic journals. A tiny, unknowable detail of a monstrous procedure. Historians might argue about the tensile strength of Roman waxed thread, but for you, its only relevant quality is its horrifying finality. Pop, says Zip. The gap of light is now just a sliver. The sewer's hands are working quickly, efficiently. HES almost done. You are sealed in a world of absolute blackness, with terrified animals, suffocating in a toxic soup of tar, sweat, and fear. And the worst part is, you know what is coming next. The water. In the final moment before the last stitch is pulled tight, you think you hear a voice from the outside, a prayer, perhaps, or a formal declaration from an official, something about purifying the land, about casting out the pollution. The words are indistinct, muffled by layers of leather and wolf-minded skin. They are not for you. They are for the benefit of the witnesses, for the gods, for the state. They are the final piece of legal paperwork, spoken aloud to make the act official. Then, the final pop, the finals are it, and the sound of a knot being pulled tight. Silence. The sounds of the outside world are gone. The lapping water, the men's voices, the cry of the gulls all extinguished. Your universe is now entirely contained within the walls of the squeezy. Stitched minus up orcs minus hide. It is a world of pure sensory input. The cacophony of animal terror, the unbearable heat, the suffocating stench, the feel of foreign claws and your own sweat minus soaked tunic. The sealing of the seam is complete. Your fate is hermetically sealed along with you. The moment the last stitch is pulled tight, a new kind of physics takes over. You are no longer connected to the stable, predictable world of solid ground. You are now adrift, a self-minus contained planet of chaos. The sack is lifted. The sensation is stomach minus churning. You feel a sudden weightlessness, followed by a heavy swing. You, the dog, the monkey, and the rooster slide across the leather floor, a jumbled heap of limbs and fur and feathers. The monkey screeches as it tumbles. The dog yelps, half in fear, half in aggression. You slam into the side of the sack, the impact jarring your already bruised body. There is no up or down anymore, no north or south. You're in the rear. The organ that gives you a sense of balance and orientation is useless. It's screaming signals of confusion to your brain. You are rolling, spinning, lurching in a world without horizons. The men are carrying you towards the water's edge. You can't see it, you can't hear it, but you can feel it in their measured, heavy steps. The sack sways with the rhythm of their walking. It's a nauseating, drunken dance. This disorientation is a key, if often overlooked, part of the torture. It's sensory deprivation and sensory overload all at once. You are deprived of sight, of stable ground, of fresh air. But you are overloaded with noise, with smells, with chaotic motion, with the terrifying touch of panicked animals in the dark. It's a combination designed to break the mind long before the body gives out. A strange thought occurs to you. What do the executioners think as they carry this terrible, squirming, noisy burden? For them, it is a physical task. The sack is heavy, probably weighing well over 200 Roman pounds with you, and all the animals inside. It's an awkward, unbalanced load. Are they focused on their footing? Are they complaining about the weight? Are they working together? One man calling out, "Careful on this rock. Lift on 3. The sheer, mundane physicality of their job is a stark contrast to the existential horror of yours. This punishment, the Poena Cullei, was not universally applied across the entire history of Rome. Its popularity waxed and waned. Some emperors and jurists seemed to favor it, seeing it as a powerful expression of state authority and religious purity. Others found it archaic and perhaps a bit too theatrical. They preferred simpler, more dignified forms of execution, like beheading. The debate among Roman elites themselves was a fascinating window into their psychology. Was this punishment a sign of a deeply pious society, terrified of spiritual pollution? Or was it a sign of a society obsessed with spectacle and extreme cruelty? The answer, as historians often conclude, is probably yes to both. It was a perfect storm of religious fear and bloodthirsty entertainment. You feel the sack being swung. A long, slower, 1, 2, 3. It's the familiar rhythm of men working together to toss something heavy. Your stomach plummets. This is the final swing. The last time you will be in the medium of air. In this final moment of suspension, as you hang between the land and the water, the chaos in the sack reaches a crescendo. The dog is howling, a primal sound of pure terror. The monkey is clinging to the leather wall, its shrieks reaching a fever pitch. The rooster is a frantic, typing blur. And you are utterly passive, a ragdoll in a hurricane, waiting for the inevitable impact. The world inside the sack is now completely untethered from reality. It is a place governed only by fear and gravity. You have been systematically disconnected from everything that makes a person, and everything that makes the world. You are in a state of pure, unadulterated chaos. A world without up or down, hurtling towards its final, conclusion. You are weightless for a heartbeat, suspended in the air at the apex of the swing. The internal chaos of the sack seems to hold its breath with you. Then, gravity reasserts its authority with brutal finality. You fall. The descent is short, maybe only a few feet, but it feels like an eternity. The sack drops, and you drop with it, a dead weight in a leather coffin. The impact is not the hard, solid crash you might expect. It's a deep, concussive thump followed by an instantaneous, bone-minus jarring shock of cold that radiates through the leather. The sack has hit the water. The sound is immediately, drastically different. The moment the sack submerges, the frantic animal noises from inside are suddenly muffled, their sharp edges sheared off by the dense medium of the water. The outside world vanishes completely, replaced by a low, humming, underwater pressure. It's as if a heavy blanket has been thrown over the entire world. And then comes the cold. It's a living thing. The chill of the river or the sea seeps through the thick, oiled leather with shocking speed. It leaches the warmth from your body, a deep, penetrating cold that seems to go straight for your bones. The heat that had built up inside the sack, the hot, stale layer of your shed panic, is extinguished in an instant. The sack, heavy and now waterlogged, begins to sink. It's not a fast plunge. It's a slow, steady, inexorable descent. You can feel the pressure of the water increasing, pressing in on the leather walls, squeezing the sack, making your small world even smaller. The animals react to this new, terrifying reality. The dog, which had been scrambling, now lets out a series of frantic, gurgling barks as water begins to seep through the seams of the sack. The monkey, a creature that instinctively fears water, goes completely berserk, launching itself from one side of the sack to the other in a final, useless burst of energy. Water begins to pool at the bottom of the sack. It's icy cold. It soaks through your thin tunic, through the clumsy wooden shoes. You try to push yourself up, to find a higher point. But there is nowhere to go. The water level rises with terrifying speed, first to your ankles, then to your knees. This is the final, brilliant, and horrifying piece of the design. The sack is waterproofed, yes, but not perfectly. The tar and pitch slow the ingress of water, but the hundreds of tiny holes from the sewing needle allow it to seep in, stitch by stitch. This ensures that drowning is not a quick, merciful release. It is a slow, gradual process, an extension of the terror. The rooster is the first to go silent, a final, pathetic, watery squawk, and then nothing. The rising water adds a new dimension of horror. The dog is now paddling, its claws scrabbling against you as it tries to keep its head above the encroaching tide. You can feel its frantic, desperate movements in the dark. A historical debate centers on the location of these executions. Was it a river, like the Tiber, or the open sea? The sources are ambiguous. Cicero mentions the condemned being cast into the river. The Emperor Hadrian, however, decreed the punishment should take place in the sea. If possible, the difference is significant. A river is murky. Its currents unpredictable. The sea is vast, deep, and final. Being cast into the sea was seen as a more profound form of erasure, a complete removal from the world of men. The chances of the sack ever washing ashore were minimal. You would simply vanish. The water is up to your chest now. It's heavy, and the cold is making your muscles cramp. The wolf-minus skin hood is a sodden, heavy weight on your head, trying to pull you down, breathing as a conscious, desperate act. You tilt your head back, trying to find the last pocket of steel, trapped here. The dog is weakening. Its frantic paddling becomes a weaker, struggling motion. It lets out a final, gurgling whine, and then its body goes limp against yours, a dead weight in the rising water. Now it is just you and the monkey and the snake. The monkey is still clinging to the upper part of the sack, just above the waterline, chittering in a way that sounds almost like crying. The snake, who knows? A snake can swim. It might be the last living thing in this bag, a silent, cold survivor, right until the very end. The water is at your chin. The last pocket of air is shrinking, fouled by your own carbon dioxide. You take a final, shuddering gasp. It's not air, it's water. I see, silty water that fills your mouth, your throat, your lungs. The pain is sharp, a burning, tearing sensation. Your body convulses. A final, involuntary protest. And then, nothing. The chaos stops. The cold fades. The pain recedes. There is only the silent, crushing, absolute pressure of the deep. The world of the living is a distant memory. You have been successfully, undoubtedly, erased. Your story, as a conscious experience, has ended. You have been extinguished in a carefully orchestrated storm of terror, sealed in an ox-minus hide sack at the bottom of a river or the sea. But the story of the punishment itself, the Poena Cullei, did not begin with you. Its roots stretch back into the mists of Rome's earliest history, into a time of myth and legend. Let's rewind the clock, leaving your waterlogged tomb behind. We drift back, past the age of emperors like Hadrian and Augustus, past the late republic of Cicero and Caesar, all the way back to the semi-minus mythical era of the Roman kings. We are in a much smaller Rome, a city of mud minus brick huts and simple temples, clinging to the banks of the Tiber. According to Roman tradition, the punishment was first instituted by one of the legendary kings. But which one? Here, as with so much of early Roman history, the sources disagree. and historians have been arguing about it ever since. One of the most commonly cited candidates is the fifth king of Rome, Lucius Arcanius Priscius. He was an Etruscan, a foreigner who rose to power, and he is oft uncredited with many of Rome's great public works, like the Circus Maximus and the beginnings of the Great Sewer, the Cloaca Maxima. The story goes that he was so horrified by the crime of patricide that he devised this unique and elaborate punishment. He decreed that the guilty should be scourged, have their head covered, be put into a sack with a selection of animals, and cast into the water. Why would a king invent such a bizarre ritual? The theory is that it was a potent piece of political and religious theater, for a king trying to establish his authority over a collection of unruly clans. Creating a new, terrifying law against the ultimate crime was a powerful statement. It said, "I am the guardian of the natural order. I am the one who will protect the Pax Deorum, the peace of the gods, offend the family, the core of our state, and you will face a punishment as unnatural as your crime." But there's another, even older tradition, one that is far more murky and strange. This one attributes the punishment not to a specific king, but to the ancient laws or the leges regiae, the supposed laws of the earliest kings like Romulus and Numa Pompilus. In this version, the punishment was not an invention, but a rediscovery of a primeval right. This theory suggests the punishment's origins are not in law, but in deep minus-seated religious taboo and magic. Think about the elements: the wolf's skin, turning the man into a monster; the wooden shoes, cutting him off from the earth; the specific animals, each with a heavy symbolic weight; and the final disposal in water, a classic element of purification rituals in many ancient cultures. In this view, the punishment wasn't about deterrence. It was a form of mass spiritual cleansing. Patricide didn't just kill a person. They created a stain, a peculum, a pollution that infected the entire community. The gods would be angry. The harvests might fail. The army might be defeated. The crime had to be physically and ritually expunged from the world. So, the criminal was ritually separated from humanity, the hood, from the earth, the shoes, and then sealed in a microcosm of chaos with creatures representing the perversion of nature. This entire package of pollution was then handed over to a powerful, cleansing natural element water to be carried away, dissolved, and returned to primordial chaos. You weren't just being executed. You were being offered as a sacrifice to restore balance to the cosmos. A small, fascinating, and quirky detail that supports this magical, religious origin is the name of the crime itself. Parricidium. As we touched on before, one of the wildest and now largely dismissed etymological theories connects the first part of the word, not to Pater Father, but to Para, a type of bird specifically. The owl. Owls were birds of ill omen. This theory suggests the original crime was not just killing a parent, but some kind of dark sorcery, the killing of the omen bird, and the elaborate ritual was a counter-minus magical rite. It's almost certainly wrong, but it's a wonderful example of how ancient Romans themselves tried to find deeper, more mystical meanings in their own archaic laws. So as your sack slowly settles into the silt at the bottom of the sea, remember that your fate was not a modern invention of a cruel empire. It was an echo of a king's decree, or a priest's chant, or a shaman's curse, from the very dawn of Rome. You are the final link in a chain of ancient, terrifying tradition, the unfortunate inheritor of a king's ancient law. Your journey to the bottom of the sea was a fate with ancient roots, but it was the emperors of Rome who refined it, codified it, and turned it into the polished piece of state-minus-sanctioned horror you experienced. The punishment, like Rome itself, evolved over time. It fell in undoubted fashion, and its specific ingredients were subject to imperial tweaking. Let's drift forward from the Age of Kings, through the turbulent centuries of the Republic. During much of the Republican period, the Poena Cullei seems to have been quite rare. While the law remained on the books, prosecutions were few and far between. Some prominent Romans, like the great orator Cicero, spoke of it with a kind of morbid fascination, as a cruel but necessary relic of their ancestors' stern justice. It was a boogeyman in their legal closet. Then came the emperors. The first emperor, Augustus, was a man obsessed with order, morality, and restoring the good old days of Roman virtue, or at least his version of them. He saw himself as the father of the nation, the pater patria. It's no surprise, then, that he took a renewed interest in the punishment for the ultimate familial crime. Under Augustus, the punishment of the sack was revived and reaffirmed. For him, it wasn't just an execution. It was a powerful piece of propaganda. It sent a clear message. In Augustan Rome, the family is sacred, and I am its ultimate protector. But the golden age of the Cullei, if one can use such a term, came later. Under the reign of the Emperor Hadrian in the 2nd century AD, Hadrian was a fascinating and complex figure, a lover of Greek culture, an extensive traveler, a military man, and a micro-minus managing administrator. He was obsessed with standardizing and rationalizing the vast Roman legal system. And for some reason, the punishment of the sack caught his attention. It was Hadrian who, according to the sources, made some of the most specific refinements to the ritual. He is the one often credited with solidifying the classic menagerie: the rooster, the dog, the snake, and the monkey. Before Hadrian, the sources are a bit inconsistent. Some mention only a snake and a dog. Some mention no animals at all. Hadrian seems to have locked in the final, absurd guest list. Why? What was his reasoning? This is a great point of debate for historians. Was he an antiquarian, trying to restore the ritual to what he believed was its original form? Or was he an innovator, adding the monkey as an extra touch of exotic cruelty and psychological torment? A reflection of an empire that now had access to such creatures and the decadent tastes to use them in such a way. It was also Hadrian who decreed that the punishment should, whenever possible, be carried out in the open sea rather than a river. This was another of his refinements. It was a logistical challenge but a powerful symbolic statement. Tossing the sack into the Tiber meant it might wash up downstream. A messy and undignified end to the ritual. Casting it into the deep sea was a promise of complete and utter erasure. It was a cleaner, more absolute form of purification. It transformed the punishment from a local disposal into a final, cosmic banishment. One of the weirdest pieces of trivia from this period concerns the sack itself. We know it was made of ox hide, but a legal text from around this time, the Digest of Justinian, includes a debate among Roman jurists on a very peculiar point. What happens if an ox is not available? Could the sack be made of another material? One jurist soberly concludes that a lead-lined chest could be used as a substitute. The thought of being sealed in a lead box with a group of frantic animals and thrown into the sea adds a new, even more claustrophobic layer of horror to the whole affair. It shows the Roman legal mind at its most terrifyingly practical. The method of delivery was less important than the principle of the thing. So the punishment you endured was not the crude rite of an ancient king. It was a streamlined, updated, and bureaucratically perfected process. It was a product of the High Empire, a demonstration of its power, its reach, and its unique capacity for combining ancient religious dread with cold, administrative efficiency. Your fate was personally curated, in a way, by the will of emperors. You didn't just die by an ancient law. You died by an emperor's refined and perfected vision of what that law should be. The sack, with its bizarre menagerie, was a product of a specific pagan Roman worldview, a world of capricious gods, spiritual pollution, and blood sacrifice. But Rome, and the world, was changing. A new faith was slowly, quietly spreading through the empire. One with a very different understanding of sin, punishment, and the afterlife. And as this new belief system took root, the very foundations of the Cullei began to crumble. Let's drift forward in time again, past the age of Hadrian and the Antonine emperors. The Roman Empire is now in its later period, the 3rd and 4th centuries AD. It's an era of instability, civil wars, and profound cultural transformation. And the most significant transformation of all is the rise of Christianity. Christianity offered a radically different perspective. Sin was not a stain that polluted the community and angered the gods of the earth and sky. It was a personal failing, a moral wound on the individual's soul, a matter between that person and a single, almighty powerful good. The remedy was not a public, ritualistic, bloody purification of the community. It was private repentance, divine forgiveness, and the promise of salvation in the next world. In this new moral universe, the punishment of the sack started to look less like a sacred duty and more like a piece of barbaric, pagan savagery. What was the point of turning a man into a wolf-monster if his soul was what truly mattered? Why seal him in a bag with animals when his fate would be decided at the Last Judgment? The entire elaborate, earthly ritual began to seem irrelevant. The Emperor Constantine, the first Christian emperor, famously took a look at the Poena Cullei and was, to put it mildly, not a fan. He found the whole thing unnecessarily cruel and grotesque. In a decree issued in 318 AD, he decided to reform the punishment for patricide. His solution, however, was not exactly a gentle slap on the wrist. Constantine was still a Roman emperor, after all, and he believed the ultimate crime deserved the ultimate punishment. He just wanted a punishment that was, in his eyes, more straightforward and less weird. He decreed that the condemned should no longer be thrown into the water. Instead, they would face the vengeance of the sword. A simple, clean beheading, however, for those who committed the crime in a particularly nasty way, or in a place where a simple execution wasn't dramatic enough. He offered an alternative, being thrown to the wild beasts in the arena. This is a fascinating moment of transition. On one hand, Constantine is abolishing the ancient pagan ritual of the sack. On the other, he is replacing it with another classic Roman spectacle of death. Being thrown to the beasts was just as much a part of the pagan entertainment complex as gladiatorial combat. It shows how deeply ingrained these forms of public execution were in the Roman psyche. You can change the religion, but changing the culture of punishment is a much slower process. The debate among historians here is rich. Did Constantine abolish the sack because he was a compassionate Christian repulsed by its cruelty? Or was it more of a political and religious branding exercise? By getting rid of such a distinctively pagan ritual, he was further distancing his new Christian empire from its pagan past. He was cleaning house, both legally and symbolically. There's a small, strange detail in Constantine's law. He specified that if the crime was committed in the countryside, far from an arena, the criminal should be burned alive. This again shows the Roman penchant for practicality mixed with terror. The goal was a spectacular and decisive end, and the method could be adapted to local resources. So the punishment of the sack, the Poena Cullei, began its long, slow fade into history. Later Christian emperors would continue to legislate against patricide, but they tended to favor burning or the sword. The sack, with its wolf hoods and wooden shoes and its bizarre menagerie of symbolic animals, was a relic of a belief system that was dying out. The world no longer needed to be ritually cleansed by drowning a man with a monkey. The world now had baptism, confession, and the saving grace of a new God. Your terrifying, watery end was becoming obsolete, a fossil of an older, darker faith, left behind by the rising tide of a new religion. The sack was a solution to a problem that, in the minds of the new rulers of Rome, no longer existed in the same way. The Roman Empire in the West eventually crumbled. The eagles fell, the legions faded, and the grand edifice of Roman law was broken into 1,000 pieces, scattered across the new kingdoms of Europe. And yet, some things survived. Roman ideas, Roman words, and Roman laws echoed down the centuries, often in strange and distorted forms, and one of the strangest, most tenacious echoes was the ghost of the punishment of the sack. Let's travel far from the warm shores of the Mediterranean, far from the Tiber River. We find ourselves in the cold, damp forests of medieval Germany, nearly 1,000 years after your watery demise. The world is a patchwork of feudal lordships, royal towns, and monasteries. And yet, if you look closely in their law books, you will find something eerily familiar. In several medieval German legal codes, most famously in the 13th century text known as the Saxon Spiegel Saxon Mirror, a very specific punishment is prescribed for particularly heinous crimes. It wasn't just for patricide anymore. The scope had broadened to include other vile acts. The punishment was this. The condemned person was to be sewn into a sack with a dog, a rooster, and a snake, then dead drowned. Sound familiar? The monkey is gone, but the core of the menagerie remains. The dog, the rooster, the snake, and the sack, and the water. This is a genuine historical puzzle that has intrigued legal historians for centuries. How did this bizarre, uniquely Roman ritual survive the fall of an empire and emerge, nearly intact, in the legal codes of a completely different culture, 1,000 years later and 1,000 miles away? There are two main theories, and scholars still argue fiercely about them. The first theory is the direct transmission theory. This suggests that the memory of the Roman punishment was preserved, passed down through the centuries like a secret recipe. Perhaps it survived in the legal traditions of the Catholic Church, which inherited much of its structure and legal thinking from the Roman Empire. I learned monk in a German monastery, tasked with helping a local lord draw up a new law code, might have dusted off an old Roman legal text, perhaps the Digest of Justinian, and found the description of the Poena Cullei, seeing it as a fittingly biblical sounding punishment for the worst of sinners. He incorporated it into his new code. The second theory is more complex. It's the cultural fusion or independent invention theory. This argument says that many Germanic tribes had their own pre-existing traditions of ritual drowning for certain crimes. It was a common practice in many ancient European cultures to execute criminals or offer sacrifices in bogs and marshes. When these tribes came into contact with the remnants of Roman culture, they heard stories of the legendary Roman punishment. They then fused their own traditions of ritual drowning with the more elaborate, more civilized Roman version they had learned about. They essentially upgraded their own local horror with a few prestigious Roman imported ingredients. One of the most curious pieces of evidence is the absence of the monkey. Why did the dog, rooster, and snake make the journey north, but not the monkey? The answer is likely simple logistics. Monkeys were an exotic luxury even in the mighty Roman Empire. In medieval Germany, they were practically unheard of, fantastically rare and expensive. A local German lord couldn't just send a servant down to the market to pick up a monkey for an execution. It was an impossible line item on the budget, so the monkey was quietly dropped from the recipe. It was a practical adaptation of an ancient law to new, less exotic circumstances. This afterlife of the punishment is almost more bizarre than the original. To imagine a medieval German executioner, in his leather jerkin, dutifully collecting a confused dog, an angry rooster, and a local grass snake to fulfill a law whose origins he couldn't possibly understand, is to witness the strange and powerful inertia of history. He was performing a ritual whose symbolic meaning was tied to the pagan gods of a forgotten empire. He was, without knowing it, an heir to the functionaries who sealed you in your sack. Your very specific, highly symbolic death was not an isolated event. It was a cultural seed, and it floated on the tides of history, eventually taking root again in the cold soil of a different land. A strange and terrible flower blooming long after the civilization that first cultivated it had turned to dust. We have traveled from the mists of Rome's birth to the forests of medieval Germany, tracing the long, strange life of this one uniquely terrible punishment. We've seen it invented, refined, abandoned, and reborn. But we are left with one final, fundamental question. A question that brings us back to you, floating in the silent, crushing dark at the bottom of the sea. Why? Why go to all this trouble? Why the scourging, the wooden shoes, the falsehood? Why the rooster? The door, the snake, the monkey, the cart, the sack, the sewing, the drowning. An execution can be accomplished with a simple sword. A rape, or a fire. This was something else entirely. This was art. This was theatre. This was a massive expenditure of time, resources, and civic energy. The ultimate question, the one that historians still circle back to, is this: was the punishment of the sect truly about punishing you? Or was it about purifying Rome? The first argument is straightforward. The punishment was designed for maximum personal suffering. It was a symphony of psychological and physical torment, intended to make your last hours on earth a living hell. The claustrophobia, the disorientation, the fear of the animals, the slow, cold drowning. It was a meticulously crafted experience of terror. In this view, you are the target. The goal is to inflict a pain so profound, a death so degrading, that it matches the horror of your crime. It's about retribution. Pure and simple, a life for a life, but with a uniquely cruel and unusual twist. But the second argument is more subtle and, to many historians, more compelling. This argument states that you, the criminal, were ultimately secondary. You were just a vessel. The real patient in this elaborate surgical procedure was the city of Rome itself. Remember the Pax Deorum, the fragile peace with the gods. A crime like patriarchy didn't just break a human law. It tore a hole in the fabric of the cosmos. It created a spiritual wound, a pollution that could invite divine wrath upon the entire community. Famine, plague, military defeat, all could be the result of this one unnatural act. From this perspective, the Poena Cullei was not an act of vengeance. It was an act of civic hygiene, a desperate, large-scale ritual of decontamination. Let's look at the elements again through this lens. The scourging wasn't just to cause you pain, it was to ritually mark you and drive the evil out. The wooden shoes didn't just hobble you. They severed your polluting connection to the sacred Roman soil. The wolfhood didn't just dehumanize you. It transformed you into a recognizable monster, a scapegoat, making it easier to cast you out. The animals weren't there just to terrorize you. They were symbolic sponges, soaking up different aspects of the unnaturalness of your crime. The sack wasn't just a coffin. It was a containment vessel, a spiritual biohazard bag. Every element was designed to isolate, contain, and concentrate the spiritual poison into one neat, sealed package. And the final act, the drowning, was the disposal. Water was a powerful agent of purification. By casting the sealed sack into the river or the sea, the Romans were not just killing you. They were handing the entire package of sin and pollution over to the gods of the water and the underworld to be carried away, dissolved, and neutralized. It was the religious equivalent of flushing a toilet. This is the interpretation that many modern scholars lean towards. The punishment of the sack was a deeply religious, deeply superstitious public health measure. Your suffering was incidental. Your terror was a side effect. The true goal was to save the city, to mend a tear in the cosmic fabric, to appease the angry gods, to allow everyone else in Rome to wake up the next morning, see that the sun still rose, and feel a collective sigh of relief, knowing that the stain had been removed, the balance had been restored. So, as your sack rests in the eternal quiet of the seabed, you are left with this final, chilling ambiguity. Were you the subject of the most personal, uncruel execution imaginable? Or were you merely a prop in a grand, impersonal, and desperate prayer? The truth, as with so much of history, lies somewhere in the murky water between the two. You were both. And that, perhaps, is the most Roman thing about it. The quiet of the deep now surrounds you. The chaos is over. The frantic energy has dissipated into the vast, silent, and endless water. There is no more struggle, no more fear, only a slow, gentle return to the elements from which all things came. Imagine that heavy suck. No longer a prison of terror, but now just a quiet, still vessel. slowly becoming part of the seabed. The leather softens, the stitches fray, and over an immense, unhurried expanse of time, it all simply dissolves, becoming one with the sun and the salt and the immense, quiet pressure of the deep. There is no memory here, no pain. There is only a profound and final peace, a release into the gentle, timeless rhythm of the ocean. The story is over, and all that is left is this deep, deep calm. And so, our story for tonight comes to a gentle close. If you're still listening, and that's perfectly alright, you'll find many other quiet paths on this channel to walk upon. For now, sleep well. Good night.